Am I wrong for pretending not to know my fiance after she had a meltdown during boarding the plane and was eventually thrown off? I imagine I'm going to get raked over the coals for this one. So, my fiance, maybe not for much longer, and I were on our way back from a vacation recently. It was a great time and everything went off without an issue. That is, until we started boarding the plane. Now I know better. I only bring a small backpack with essentials in case I don't get my checked bags. I can survive out of this backpack and it will always pass baggage check for size and weight. I've done a lot of traveling, so why fight the system? My fiance didn't want to listen to my advice and chose to bring basically a regular full-size bag that barely fits the standards of a carry-on. But generally speaking, the airline worker doesn't want to deal with the trouble and allows it through. But this time, the airline worker was not having it. It was a packed flight, we were boarding last in economy, and it was just a shit show. I got through it just fine first with my little backpack, but I could hear the argument from the boarding tunnel thing and it was getting heated. I was about to go back and try to smooth it out, but my fiance rushed past and just boarded the plane. I assumed, not having heard it super clearly, that the attendant had given in and let her on. That was not the case. So we found our seats and settled in. I was pretty tired and I could tell she was upset, so I kind of just tucked into the window and put my hat down and tried to take a nap. But soon after, the airline worker and a cop shows up and they are not fucking around and want her off the plane. She tries to plead and cry, etc., but they are not having it. And maybe in a moment of panic or just plain self-preservation, the cop asks if we're together and I blurt out, "No," shaking my head empathetically. I got kill daggers from her eyes and she shot up and grabbed her bag and followed the cop out. She was also swearing and screaming the whole way out. Now, obviously, this is well after the event I'm posting this, but when she did eventually get home, she caught the next flight out with the bag checked. I was there to pick her up. She obviously thought I was the asshole, and to be honest, almost everyone I know thinks I'm an asshole except my boss and coworkers, who for context were very much relying on me to get back on time, which I gave my word I would for a really important project that was time sensitive. They were all very happy I didn't get thrown off too. So am I the asshole for this self-preservation? Am I wrong for not attending the engagement dinner my future in-laws threw for me after my fiance hid my engagement ring? My fiance, 31 male, proposed to me 28 female days ago. He has this habit of joking around and pulling pranks from time to time. It bothers me sometimes, but I try to have patience. His family wanted to throw us an engagement party at a restaurant. I heard his mom talk about how expensive this place was and how much money they paid for reservations, so this clearly was a huge deal for them. My fiance and I were getting ready, and I noticed my engagement ring wasn't where I left it before I entered the shower. I freaked out and looked for it everywhere. I asked my fiance about it and he said he didn't see it. I freaked out and was running out of time for the party. He sat there watching me, almost losing my mind trying to find it, to the point where I started crying because without the ring, I couldn't show up to the party. I kept thinking about what his family would say and how they think I was irresponsible to lose a ring that is somewhat expensive. I gave up looking and sat down and just cried in frustration. Next thing I knew, my fiance was standing in front of me laughing with his hand extended to me with the ring in it. I asked where he found it and he could barely speak and say that he hid it from me last minute before the party as a prank. I was in shock, but I just sort of blew up on him and started yelling, saying that he hid the ring, made me freak out for 2 hours and almost made me miss the party. He was like, "Relax, it was a prank, okay? Don't make a big deal out of it and ruin the evening." I told him I wasn't going to the party and that if his family asked, I would tell them it was because he hid my ring. He freaked out and started begging me to let it go and just go with him, but I refused and went into the bathroom, took my medication and stayed there. He lost it and kept saying that I blew this out of proportion and that I ruined my own party and cost his family a lot of money and disrespected them by not attending. His family found out and they were mad at him, but also me for choosing to not attend and getting over it, but I was in a horrible state emotionally and couldn't handle being in public after what had happened. So, am I the asshole for choosing not to go after he hid the ring?
Am I the asshole for wanting my wife to spend her birthday with me instead of her friends? So the other day was my wife's birthday, and we've both been very busy at work, but her birthday fell on a day she has off. As a surprise, I took the day off and made a reservation at her favorite restaurant. I also got groceries to make her favorite dessert. However, the night before her birthday, she casually mentioned she'd be going away for the day with some friends. Of course, I had to confess that I made plans and reservations as a surprise, but she just very casually apologized. I know it's her birthday and she should do as she pleases, but I expressed I was hurt she was going with her friends instead of spending the day together. Am I the asshole for wanting my wife to spend her birthday with me instead of her friends? I informed her that I had to reschedule all my appointments at work just so I could get the day off and pointed out that she never mentioned going away on her birthday. She said she felt bad, but would feel shitty canceling on her friends, and I asked if she felt bad for canceling on me. She said she did, but made the plans the day before and didn't know my intentions. She asked what I want her to do, and I again informed her that I would like for us to spend the day together, and that we haven't had a day off together in a while, but I said it was her birthday and I wasn't gonna make her cancel. She chose her friends and I went over to my parents that night.
I'm 25 female work in event planning, so I always get invites or tickets to go to high-end events. There was a huge event coming up that I was really excited to go to. I asked my boyfriend, 27, 3 days before the event to accompany me, and he said yes. So originally, the plan was my boyfriend, my stepsister, and myself. On the day of the event, he said he had a doctor's appointment, so he wasn't sure if he could still attend. I said no problem, and I waited for him to return home. A couple hours later, he texted me and said he had something to tell me. I got worried and called him immediately. I asked if everything was okay, and he said he was diagnosed with anemia, so he'll have to take supplements. I expressed how sorry I was and spoke to him for about 2 hours. Gave him pep talks and told him that I'm here if he needs me. Reassured him that I'll always love him, etc. I then asked if he would still like to attend the event with me, just to take his mind off of things, to which he responded that he doesn't like the artiste performing, so he'd rather go to another event. I said no problem, I'll go with my stepsister alone. He got upset and hung up. I called him back, but he started an argument about how I'm selfish for going out while he's going through something. I told him that I already made plans with my stepsister and I can't back out now that she's depending on me. I also don't drink, so I would have been the sober driver, and if I didn't go, then she couldn't. I told him that this event is the only event that my sister really wanted to attend, and I promised her that I would take her months prior. I even told him I'll see him the next day, and he said be safe and hung up. I got to the event around 11 and spent the entire event just alone, sitting and watching the show by myself, having food and drink. When I returned home around 2 in the morning, I called him and he was awake playing video games. His first words were, "Look who cares about me again." I said, "I'm too tired for this," and he responded by saying that of course I'm tired. I went out without him knowing he's upset, but I love partying and meeting new people so much that I didn't even think to stay with him on the phone. I told him that he's being ridiculous, and I would have stayed if it was just us two who planned to go. He said my priorities are off and I'm an ignorant a-hole. Also keep in mind, I don't attend parties unless it's with my family, and I only attend events a few times a year. Am I in the wrong for not staying on the phone with him and attending the event instead? My girlfriend, 23, is threatening to break up with me over a prank that I, 24, pulled on her and her family. This past weekend was a big camping trip that my girlfriend would be taking with her and her family. It would consist of her parents, her younger sister, her aunt, her uncle, and her 3 cousins. It was a big family trip that was being planned for cooler weather. My girlfriend told me all about where they would be camping, and I decided to take advantage of that knowledge. I visited my girlfriend's house to say goodbye to her and wish her a fun trip, and when they all took off in their cars, I got in my car and drove to the campsite that they would be staying at. I know the area pretty well, and I was able to find a spot to hide my car from view, and I was able to navigate the woods and keep an eye on them while remaining hidden from view. When it came to nighttime, I put on my Chewbacca costume and ruffled it up a little bit to make it wild and untamed. While the family was gathered around the campfire, I started to rustle the bushes. The family noticed and they didn't think much of it. Then I started making growling noises. The family was getting noticeably freaked out, and then my girlfriend's uncle started to walk towards where I was hiding. As soon as he got close enough, I jumped from behind the bushes and started making roaring noises while running and acting like Bigfoot. I shook their heads, threw their lawn chairs around, and chased after some of the cousins. I heard my girlfriend's dad yell, "Get the gun!" And that's when I knew I had to end the prank. I took off the costume, revealed myself, and the entire family was pissed. Long story short, I got yelled at by almost all of our family, and the noise attracted the campsite manager, who kicked me out after hearing what happened. Today I heard back from my girlfriend, and for the first time since the prank, she said that she's seriously considering breaking up with me. She said that she just needs some time to think about that, and she'll let me know when she's made her decision. Now I'm just left wondering what to do. I'm thinking I need to pull off a major apology, and I need some advice on what to say to save this relationship. My girlfriend, 23, is threatening to break up with me over a prank that I, 24, pulled on her and her family. This past weekend was a big camping trip that my girlfriend would be taking with her and her family. It would consist of her parents, her younger sister, her aunt, her uncle, and her 3 cousins. It was a big family trip that was being planned for cooler weather. My girlfriend told me all about where they would be camping, and I decided to take advantage of that knowledge. I visited my girlfriend's house to say goodbye to her and wish her a fun trip, and when they all took off in their cars, I got in my car and drove to the campsite that they would be staying at. I know the area pretty well, and I was able to find a spot to hide my car from view, and I was able to navigate the woods and keep an eye on them while remaining hidden from view. When it came to nighttime, I put on my Chewbacca costume and ruffled it up a little bit to make it wild and untamed. While the family was gathered around the campfire, I started to rustle the bushes. The family noticed and they didn't think much of it. Then I started making growling noises. The family was getting noticeably freaked out, and then my girlfriend's uncle started to walk towards where I was hiding. As soon as he got close enough, I jumped from behind the bushes and started making roaring noises while running and acting like Bigfoot. I shook their heads, threw their lawn chairs around, and chased after some of the cousins. I heard my girlfriend's dad yell, "Get the gun!" And that's when I knew I had to end the prank. I took off the costume, revealed myself, and the entire family was pissed. Long story short, I got yelled at by almost all of our family, and the noise attracted the campsite manager, who kicked me out after hearing what happened. Today I heard back from my girlfriend, and for the first time since the prank, she said that she's seriously considering breaking up with me. She said that she just needs some time to think about that, and she'll let me know when she's made her decision. Now I'm just left wondering what to do. I'm thinking I need to pull off a major apology, and I need some advice on what to say to save this relationship.
Am I the asshole for leaving a wedding to eat at McDonald's? I'm female 25, and recently my colleague female 31 invited me to her wedding. It happened to be yesterday, and I was super excited and happy for her. But just in case, I asked if there were any guest fees, and she said, "No, you don't need to pay me anything." On the day itself, everything went well until it was the reception, which was dinner time. To my shock, I was presented with a wedding menu that had prices on it. For example, steak for $50. Really, everything was so expensive, including the vegetarian options. At first, I wanted to question why she lied to me, but the only option was to simply not eat. Am I the asshole for leaving a wedding to eat at McDonald's? I didn't have money for both a meal and a ride back. But I was so hungry and there was a McDonald's 5 minutes away, so I asked the bride if I could leave and come back. And of course I'd be back for the gift ceremony and cake, but to my horror, she got really upset. She said she put so much effort into this service, but I wasn't happy. Alarmed, I said I didn't mean it that way, I just didn't have cash for it. She then scoffed, saying, "Whose fault is that?" I responded that she told me I didn't need to pay anything. Then she angrily replied, "What I meant is no attendance fee. It's a 5-course dinner. You're cheaper than I thought." She asked me to leave, and on my way home I grabbed a Big Mac.